ahead and bring this meeting to order. Before we get started, I have to read an introduction. The Design Adjustment Committee's purpose is to establish clear and measurable review criteria for the consideration of major deviations from the city's technical standards and specifications manual. The Design Adjustment Committee does not consider housing type, cost of the proposed unit, occupants, building material, unit size, number of bedrooms, or the architectural design of the structures. These hearings are quasi-judicial evidentiary hearings. That means it's like a court hearing, and the committee's decisions are constrained by the standards in the ordinance and based on facts presented. All variance requests require a 4/5 vote of the committee to grant the variance. Appeals of the committee decisions are to the Board of Adjustment. A written notice of appeal must be filed with the city clerk within 30 days of the committee's decision. Appeals are set for hearing before the Board of Adjustment within 30 days or as soon thereafter as practicable. The parties to these cases are entitled to an impartial board. If a board member has a fixed opinion on the matter, a financial interest in the outcome, a close relationship with the affected person, or has had any ex parte communication about the matter, please disclose that information to determine if a recusal is necessary. City staff will introduce the proposed project to the committee, and the committee members may ask questions. The applicant may present additional information about the project, and the members may ask questions. If anyone wishes to provide evidence at today's hearing, witnesses must sign in on the clipboard at the back of the room, front of the room, and be sworn in. Because witnesses are to provide sworn testimony, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinion. When a witness comes forward to give testimony, please come to the podium, state your name and address to the board, and speak clearly. At this time, staff will administer oath for any individuals who wish to provide witness testimony.
If I could have anyone wishing to speak today, whether it's staff, applicants, or members of the public, please stand, raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
First item on our agenda is the minutes from the previous meeting. This would be the minutes from the regular meeting. We don't have minutes yet for the special meetings. Anybody had a chance to review those? And if so, do I have a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye of approving the minutes.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Minutes are approved. The first item is Plant Court. Is there a staff presentation?
The subject property here consists of approximately 2.57 acres. Contains several vacant tracts that are located on both sides and an unimproved portion of Montclair Drive, which is located north of Wrightsville Avenue. The applicant is proposing to rezone this property from an R10 to an R5 conditional district for a 10-lot single-family subdivision. Montclair Drive is platted, unimproved, 30-foot wide right-of-way between Wrightsville and Cedar Avenues, and a city-maintained public street to the north between Cedar Avenue and Wilshire Boulevard. The applicant proposed to improve a portion of the existing unimproved Montclair Drive and construct a new street that would connect to Montclair Drive, to Wrightsville Avenue, I'm sorry. The standard cross-section for a minor residential street includes 40-foot wide right-of-way, 16 feet of pavement width, curb and gutter, plaza, sidewalks, and non-municipal easements. So today's request is relief from the standard cross-section for this minor residential street within the existing 33-foot wide right-of-way. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is present as well.
Any questions for Brian? Okay. Thank you. The applicant?
Good afternoon. My name is Michael White. Good afternoon. I'm Michael White.
Up at the top.
That good?
Yep,
Okay.
there you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael White. I am the managing partner of Karma Rentals LLC, which is the owner of the subject property. Today I have Cindy Wolf with me from Design Solutions, who understands all this stuff and is going to present it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name's Cindy Wolf, and as Michael said, I've been helping them through this process. We are in the process of rezoning and some entitlement, but just to give a little bit of background on it, what you see on the left are the two parcels that we're working with, and what we're working with was created all the way back in 1912 with Idlewild. Montclair Drive was dedicated as a 33-foot right-of-way. And so there you can see the... So, generally speaking, whenever a road is constructed within the city of Wilmington as for one of these projects, which would be considered a subdivision, this would, at 10 lots, be considered a minor local residential road, which generally has a 40-foot right-of-way, 16-foot of asphalt, 5-foot plaza, and 5-foot sidewalk. As I showed in that other picture, we don't have full right-of-way on both sides of what is now called Montclair in any of the, along it, only a portion of it. So again, the cross-sections that are part of the city tech standards are for a minor street with valley gutter. So the new right, where we have frontage on both sides of the road, we can dedicate additional right-of-way so that we have the full 40-foot of right-of-way, which is going to be called Plant Court and Karma Court. Where we don't have frontage on both sides or either side coming out past Molly Pitchers down to Wrightsville Avenue, it is the existing 30-foot right-of-way. And there is where we're asking basically for the waiver that we're creating the road, but it's not our frontage, so we can't really provide a sidewalk in that location. We can, however, still have the 16-foot of asphalt, the 2-foot valley gutters, and there is still shoulders to either side. So for any type of street tree plantings or anything like that, we can still abide by that. Since the project was originally submitted and might be in your packets from whenever, this was a 13-lot subdivision, but we've had some additional information and surveying, and the current proposal is for the 10 lots that Brian brought up. So you can see, let's see, I guess. Here it is. Doesn't the red light doesn't work. Anyway, so Plant Court, the entire width, her entire length of it, in Karma Court would all be 16-foot of pavement, 2-foot valley gutters. Karma Court would have sidewalk both sides, so there's no waiver necessary for that. It has a turnaround because it's longer than 150 feet. That's to city standard. Plant Court from Lot 1 back to or basically from halfway of Lot 2 to Lot 5 would have a full 40-foot of right-of-way. Plant Court in front of Lots 1 and 2 would have basically 38 foot of right-of-way. But anyway, we believe that this can meet the criteria, which is basically that the required street improvement can be completed within the 33-foot right-of-way. It would conform with adopted plans because neighborhood scale residential infill is promoted for underutilized land where the services are already available. Public road improvement can accommodate that growth strategy. It would not increase congestion or compromise safety because we are building the road to the technical standard, and we have in fact reduced the number of parcels. Regardless of the right-of-way width, that cross-section will be maintained. The waiver would not be contrary to the public interest, nor, we believe, materially endanger overall public safety. It would also not create any lots without direct street frontage. The street improvement extends along the frontage of all the lots proposed, and the new street, Karma, would have the required 40-foot right-of-way as it is. In addition to that, the lot that exists just behind Lot 10, Mr. Workman's property, currently doesn't have an improved access, and so it'd be adding to existing situations. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just wanted to be clear, is there still going to be a non-municipal easement on each side?
On each side of where we can provide it. So yes, along the 40-foot right-of-way, yes. Along the 30, we don't own the land on either side of it, so we can't really provide that, dedicate it.
And on the previous slide, can you show where the 33 section is then?
The 33-foot section is here to here. Then this is, whatever, 16 and a half plus 20, so 36 and a half. So there will be a non-municipal on that entire side, along here, and up to there.
Thank you.
Cindy, I certainly recognize the site constraint of a 33-foot right-of-way. I have a couple of questions. Looking at Karma Court, at the end of Karma Court, that right-of-way is going to extend all the way to the adjacent property. So if, for whatever reason, the adjacent property were to develop, that road could extend onto there's no encumbrance that would prevent
No,
that?
we're not, there's no spite strip or whatever they would call that. Our intention was to stub to that property line, but we needed to provide the turnaround.
Certainly. And then, was there any reason why, I think the only issue I have with the way that it's proposed is the city, if we were to come in, and I understand how you only have property that, with the frontage that you've got, but if the city were to ever come in and do a gap fill project for that sidewalk, we wouldn't have the ability to maintain the cross-section that you're proposing through the adjacent properties. Was there ever any consideration to doing, shifting the road, doing sidewalk on one side so that you could stay within the right-of-way and be able to extend it? I mean, I don't know if that's something that what the board or
I had a question about that, actually. I guess the possibility, my understanding is when sidewalk is immediately adjacent to curbing, now usually that's vertical curbing, I know. I don't know whether the city allows sidewalk adjacent to valley gutter, but if so, there's 6.5 feet there, so it could have a 1.5 foot median and still have the 5-foot sidewalk. I would suggest certainly on the northern side rather than where it would impact existing properties.
I was kind of thinking shifting to an offset section.
Okay.
To where you would have the Plant Court or Montclair. That was a question I had, is like, why is it Plant Court and not Montclair? But because it'll extend, but if you
But it won't extend.
Huh?
It's going to end up being 2 separate roads. Tomorrow, we're at the Board of Adjustment, such that we stop the road at that point. Those are wetlands north of it, and a very large depression. My concern about, I think what you're suggesting is to shift it over so sidewalk could go there
Yeah.
at the median. These properties, are developed. I'm sure they would like to weigh in. They're both here today. You can see that one house is extremely close to the right-of-way as it is. If everything were shifted, I think that could be an issue.
Okay. I'll wait for a public hearing for discussion on that. Any other questions for Cindy? Thank you. With that, we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this matter? Okay, if you don't mind coming up to the podium and stating your name.
Hi, my name is John Workman, and I currently live at this location right here. I was asked by Mr. D to also point out his property, which is this lot right here. I'm not well-versed in all the technical terms that you guys deal with all the time with these matters, so I hope that you'll just accept my layman's interpretation or my layman's terms and interpret them for what you know they mean. It was my hope that this development would not impact beyond or within the property lines of my property as it is right now. It seems that what I've heard so far would represent, you know, an encroachment on my westernmost property line. I think there was something mentioned about because it's undeveloped, I have no technical access or driveway, or that this would result in some improvement for me. I'm quite happy with the way it is right now and how it has been since all of time and before Idlewild. I think the reason it's never been developed is because that is a wetland. I've seen it much bigger than what it's been delineated as of today. In fact, I wonder if the Corps of Engineers had been advised or offered any advice about that wetland, because it provides a watershed for the entire neighborhood in times of severe weather or hurricanes. You can imagine there's a huge amount of water that accumulates there, and it comes from an area much bigger than that which is shown in this map. As I understand, the city was at one time had approved this road, and that they were happy with the road being 33 feet at that point. The technical review committee for the city actually stated in the document I have dated 2004 that the public utilities, public water and sewer mains will be extended by the developer into the site within the existing 33-foot public right-of-way, and that this street would be constructed as a city standard local street with 16 feet of pavement within the existing 33-foot public right-of-way, which is currently unimproved. I'm afraid that the proposition here today would be much greater than that in size, and I'm not sure that there's a lot of value in having sidewalk and added easement down both sides of this very small road. If there was going to be added sidewalk, I would support it being on the westernmost side, that being the property owned by the development and the local business, Molly Pitchers. In fact, I think Mr. Chambers is here today. Brian, are you here? Brian, nice to meet you. I understand that that fence there that is on the property line would now have to be moved, but replaced, and that there is no setback there that formerly existed.
Mr. Workman, I apologize. This is your chance to make whatever comments you want, but it's not a question and answer in time for
okay.
questions with the staff. So I apologize about that. But the board should probably take a note of that and may ask staff at the end of your presentation.
Okay. Well, at one time, there was that was residential, zoned R10, that overflow parking lot. This area here, and it was granted a special use permit for the restaurant to use it as overflow parking. And the city approved that special use permit under a condition.
I'm going to need you to step to the microphone.
All right.
This is being recorded.
Okay. That special use permit was approved, and the requirement for that then was a 15-foot setback where a 6-foot privacy fence would be built, and then a vegetative buffer put in for the sake of the neighborhood. I think you could all appreciate that. I certainly did. At least then some compromise was made where the buffer was eliminated and the fence was put on the property line. I still didn't complain about that, although it didn't do as much as it could have to beautify the city and our neighborhood, but it did stop the tractor trailers from pulling in that side of the lot to make their food deliveries and all the noise, and then the traffic pattern changed altogether. But at any rate, in summary, I just I'd like to preserve what little lot that I do have, and I'd like to keep my property line. Off the front of my house, when you step off, out my front door and off my last step, it's about 25 feet to my property line. And if I lose any more of that, my front yard's just going to become much smaller. And that's about all I have to say. I'm not against the development. I really am not. My lot's 70 feet wide by 110 feet, and I'd like to keep it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wished to speak on this issue?
Hello, my name is Jillian O'Donnell. My family lives in this house here, and our property goes all the way here, and it backs right up to the wetlands that we've been talking about. This morning I walked out the back of my property and walked down into the wetlands area and took a couple pictures. I didn't know if you guys wanted to see them, of what it looks like right now. There's a pretty high water line on the vegetation throughout this area. I don't know if you guys can see this, or if you want me to. Can I show this to you guys? Or are you interested in what it looks like currently at the moment?
We have to have a way to put it on the record. So if you brought,
It's digital.
Sorry.
Are you guys interested in seeing what the vegetation looks like, the high water line on the trees? No?
I mean, you can just describe it if we don't have a way to get it on record.
So as I walked down into the property where the wetlands are, you can see the tree line, it's 4 feet off the ground here. And it goes all the way through this entire area, which is called open space.
Yeah.
Yes?
Sorry, you forgot.
Where it says open space there, it's wetlands. And currently, not only that wetlands, but up here, we have thank you. We have a pond in front of my house that is right now super low, but it's been 12 feet on a rainy day, including last summer where I have a photo of my daughter kayaking through it. So that's right here. Over here, it's pretty much empty right now, but it's been very, very, very full of water on a regular basis until our current drought. So I'm very concerned about where all this water is going to go when you develop all of this in a wetland. It just doesn't add up for me. So I just want you guys to think about that. not to mention the wildlife that lives in this area. I just wanted to make sure we discuss that part.
Thank you. Was there anybody else from the public who wished to speak? Okay.
Hello. I'm super not prepared. I was coming here more to learn about what's going on. But I want to add that.
Can you state your name? I'm sorry.
Sure. My name's Paige Woodruff.
Okay.
And I live on 41st Street, so it's not pictured, but I live across the street from Jill. And so if that's Jill's house, I live kind of right there. And I did get notice I am within 300 feet of the proposal. I just want to bring to y'all's attention that in 2008, there were about 50 tons of fill dirt that were brought in right before they owned it, where these lots are being proposed to be built. So I know that the Army Corps of Engineers, for them to come on the property.
Ms. Woodruff, let me stop you just for a second. I think you came in late, and we have to swear you in. So can we do that real quick?
10 minutes late, and I missed the whole thing.
That's no problem. We'll do that now, if that's all right.
If you could just raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I'm just telling what I understand to be true.
Yes or no?
Yes. So what I have been told, I'm not an engineer and I've never gone on the property to test the soil. But what I have been told is that 50 tons of fill dirt were brought in 2008 by that property owner at the time. And he never got a permit for it. And ever since then, Page Avenue has had a lot of flooding. Long-term residents of that area complain about the flooding. I've gone door to door. I've talked to people. Also, the water comes up to Wrightsville Ave pretty bad from this natural area. And I know, like, where I live, at Florence, it came up onto my property line. The water came up. And there's a flood line on a garage apartment on the back of my property. So I don't know how you get the Army Corps of Engineers, if you're not the property owner, to come delineate and do a core sample where there's fill dirt. That shouldn't have ever been put there. I don't know how you get that, but that would be my request, an investigation, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Kira Beidel, and I live on Montclair Drive, 917. So a little bit out of this picture, but would be past Plant Court. I have concerns on the road being connected through for traffic with a major development, in my opinion, like this. I also have concerns about single-family homes. That's what we've been told, but I think some of the language around that, for layman terms, it seems there may be townhomes or apartments or things of that nature. So that worries me of having multiple family units packed in that small together. And of course, with the road being pulled through, just going through wetlands like that, the amount of just destruction that would have to happen in those wetlands to make that possible is just not worth it. Would not be an interest, I think, to the developers having to put the road through there, us as the community. So I won't go into my big list of concerns because I don't think that is relevant to today's meeting, but I would like you guys to notice how much of the public came out to speak today midday like this and took the time out to show support. Thank you.
Thank you. We're at the 10 minutes of public hearing. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak on this? Okay, if you could be brief, I'd appreciate it. Yep.
My name is Edward Dean. I live at 4007 Wrightsville Avenue. And I'm concerned, which is this right here, how close the road's gonna come to the house. That's my concern.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you can hear that or not. Both bedrooms are right there. Like, tight.
Okay, thank you. That was brief. Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing. I do want to direct a few questions back to the applicant on some of the stuff I've heard. Cindy, if you've got a second. I guess the first one is, do we know how far the right-of-way is from?
Mr. Dean's house.
Thank you.
I don't know exactly, but, I mean, obviously, when I overlay on aerial photographs, it's somewhat, precarious. But to the best of my knowledge, it is not on the right-of-way or within or encroaching into the right-of-way.
And you're proposing to encroach further into the private properties on the east side of Plant Court?
That's correct, neither 4007 or 4007B. We
Okay.
would have to stay within the right-of-way with our work.
Okay, and you guys aren't planning to extend or aren't required to extend Plant Court through to Montclair as part of this project, is that correct?
That's withstanding tomorrow's BOA. So
that's
we have
the-
proposed that it do not extend because we have in fact worked with a delineation by a professional environmental consultant, and they're working in process now to get the Corps sign off.
Okay.
So that's working along, and we're confident that what we've got will stand. We have also amended the plan based upon that delineation, and that's why this went from 13 lots to 10 lots, and some variations in the original submitted plans.
Okay, so I guess I need to make clear to some of the public who is here that that road extension is not something that this board is considering, but it is something that the Board of Adjustment.
And we are not trying to extend it, and we're hoping to get the Board of Adjustments agreement on that tomorrow.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the last question that I heard was the product that's going on these lots. Is that what's proposed?
This has been proposed as a 10-lot, single-family development, a subdivision in the R5 district. The R5 district allows single-family homes. It does allow accessory dwellings, but that is all that could go on any one of these lots, a single-family home and
With an ADU.
potentially an ADU.
Potentially, if they choose. Okay, thank you. Did anybody else hear any other questions that they wanted to get
I guess
addressed?
the stormwater in general.
Yeah, I was
well,
gonna
if I
get to
might-
that, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope.
From the property line perspective. Is lot 10 or lot 9 encroaching on the adjacent property? Is proposed right away not to change any property lines?
No, I mean, we would not propose any, unless we dealt with those property owners, expansion of the boundaries we have to work with, which are the 33-foot right-of-way of Montclair as it exists today, our two property boundaries, and within our property boundaries, we can dedicate additional right-of-way, so that, and
Or easement?
the sidewalk, the public pedestrian and non-vehicular easement along those. But no, we're not trying to encroach on anyone else's property.
There we go. If the neighbors to the south are, it looks like there's a vehicle that's pulled in from what you're showing as Plant Court. Is there ability to allow like a driveway for the neighbors there?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
That's all part of it. And the Valley Gutter allows that to be at any place he wants it to be. And we can provide that apron. But yeah, currently it's just a gravel road and he drives back there and parks wherever he wants in the front yard. But yes, there would be a formal driveway provided.
Thank you.
Do you saying that you're providing a formal driveway for them, or is that they would have the ability to get a driveway?
I
What's
guess
the difference?
My understanding in these situations, and I might be wrong, but would be that as we're putting in the road, we'd have to provide in the right-of-way an apron.
Okay,
So if that needs to be a condition, yes, we can provide an apron.
okay.
Can you speak to the fence that was mentioned at the property?
And I'll have to defer to counsel or Brian on that. That fence is on the property line. It has been surveyed as part of our field survey, so I can verify it does run along that property line. But as to whether moving it,
That fence is a condition of the special use permit, so if during construction, anything has to be temporarily removed or disrupted, that fence would have to go back in its current configuration. I think there would be the ability to work with the property owner to move it off the property line, but the fence would have to go back, has to be maintained, or would have to go back after construction, after a negotiation occurred with the property owner.
I think, though, that the question that Mr. Workman had was, it's not in where it was supposed to be in the first place, and that we have no control over.
Okay, and just bringing it up, I see vegetation along Plant Court, approximately in front of that fence. We would be improving that too.
Well, the technical standard for any road improvement includes street trees, every 18 to 33 feet, depending on the type of tree. This is obviously for exhibit purposes, but I'm acknowledging that we do have that requirement for street trees.
Just to comment on what,
Okay.
the comments that were made, that
Okay.
originally it was proposed for a 15-foot offset vegetative buffer. The fence would possibly come down, but have to go back up, and there would be now some sort of vegetative, maybe not buffer, but street tree.
There would be I think it works out that it's a 4.5-foot median there.
I'm having some microphone issues here. So, understanding the roadway, Plant Court would not connect to Montclair Court. Or
That's everyone's hope, yes, or on our side anyway.
Is there, so this property, does it contain the open space as well? Does it own the open space?
Yes, part of the project will be, can you go back to the very first slide, please? That is the boundary of the project. And you can see, of course, Karma Court is off to the right. What is to the left is basically where Lot 5 is. Everything to the rear would be open space, and now that additional wetlands that we've just identified would continue to be open space. It'd be maintained by a homeowners association and dedicated in perpetuity. There is an existing pond back behind, off the screen of my sketch, but back there towards the back, that was built years ago, and that would end up being our stormwater management.
Is there any reason that sidewalk is not being proposed along the existing right-of-way that's out there to connect to Montclair?
Over to Cedar, again, it would be the wetlands. There is an extreme ditch, and it is all defined as wetlands. I think it'd be counterproductive.
Is there any plan to amend those open spaces, or is it sufficient enough to manage the stormwater runoff from the proposed developments?
The proposed development of lots 1 to 10, all of that impervious, the impervious on Plant and on Karma, will all go to the same place. And yes, there's more than enough room. And that doesn't take up all the open space. So there is definitely usable open space in addition to the wetland area, if that's what you're going for. It's more of an active possibility for open space in addition to passive with the wetlands and then the pond.
That's the main thing, is the open space, that's going to be used as your stormwater capture areas. And
Some of it is, but
some
not
of it is.
all of it.
Where does the rest, will it be?
Okay. I don't have a,
The site plan was one of the exhibits. It should be in your packet too. Because it shows I'm assuming that's the stormwater pond that's between the two wetland pockets is what you're treating in stormwater?
yes.
Okay.
So basically, our open
Yeah, there it
space
is.
is over 35% of the entire project site. The stormwater management is maybe 25% of that 33%.
Thank you.
There, that's a little better. So there's adequate high ground.
That was a nice segue into the
Thank you.
stormwater question that I was going to ask anyway. So just to clarify, because I guess some of the public had some concerns about drainage. You are providing stormwater treatment for Plant Court all the way back to Wrightsville, as well as the roads that you're building, Karma and the lots? Is that stormwater device going to be sized for all of that, or just?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's my understanding, is that
Okay.
would be a requirement, but also based upon the contours. It
Yeah.
drops from Wrightsville down, so it wouldn't go anywhere else other than within our development. And so, yes, it will be sized for everything from the bound, or the right-of-way of Wrightsville Avenue, all new impervious surfaces, which would include the street, the sidewalk, and from each of the lots.
Okay, and I mean, this is generally handled as part of the TRC process, but I'm sort of giving a preview just because of the public's concerns. I see the storm drain line picking up the roadway there and going around the large wetland to your stormwater pond. I'm assuming, like, if that wetland currently, if it were to fill up, you know, as was described in some of the public, where would that overflow to today?
To the best of my knowledge, it continues going to the other, there's a system in Cedar Avenue.
Yeah, I think Howard maybe help you out.
That's correct. There's a system in Cedar Avenue which receives the outflow from what will be the stormwater control measure. We designed this previously back in '05 or so. That's where our outfall was. It was towards Cedar Avenue.
Okay.
Now this is a little bit more development than what we designed previously, adding Karma Court. We haven't yet designed this system. We wanted to get through all this initial concept period in the project, but we're hopeful we can make it work, you know, in what the area which we have for stormwater management.
And that pond that's between the two wetland pockets, that's not an identified wetland? That's a pond that you guys are designed and built, so that is available to be modified and if it's necessary to accommodate the runoff?
That's correct. That was the case back when we originally designed the project as Plant Court previously, and we think that's the case now as well.
Okay.
Again, the constraint is really the receiving stormwater collection system on Cedar Avenue. That, you know,
it's like it's a small diameter pipe.
Well, it's an aged, older system, and it's smaller diameter pipe, and you know, I'm just hypothesizing that that's the flooding issue that neighbors have experienced during large storm events.
Okay.
But we are not impacting any wetlands. We don't intend to try to get any for filling.
Right. I understood that. Yep. Thank you for clarifying. Any other comments or questions for Cindy? I don't know how the committee feels about the suggestion that I sort of started with at the beginning about, you know, shifting the road a little bit to the east, sidewalk on one side. I think what I'm still having a little bit of heartburn about with the variance that's requested is that nobody can extend the sidewalk that's proposed to connect to anything without easement that we don't have the right to require from the adjoining property owners. So if, you know, I don't expect the two existing homes on the east side to sort of develop into anything more than they are. So if the city wanted to do a gap fill project on that side, we would need easement from them. That's a problem. If we wanted to extend it through is a restaurant? It's a restaurant, right?
Yes.
Through the restaurant parcel, you've got a required fence there per a special use permit. So we may not even be able to get easement from there. So I guess my thought is maybe first with the committee is what does the committee feel about the idea of sidewalk on the west side within the right-of-way and maybe shifting the roadway a few feet to the east, but not onto the adjoining properties to allow a more, you know, still you've got a plaza area there to be able to put street trees on the west side. You've got a sidewalk on the west side, and you've got, you know, 2 or 3 feet of property between the back of curb and the edge of the right-of-way. Is that a situation that, you know, this committee is, you know, might support? Does it make sense?
My only concern with it is at some point, if someone decides to fill the area that's the right-of-way for some future development, and, you know, then the alignment will be off.
Yeah.
They'd have to correct for it.
I think that in looking at the aerials, and maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but Montclair, Cedar, whatever it's called, on the north side of this plan does have sidewalk on the west side only. Is that correct? So it would almost seem to me like it would be a natural, if the road were ever extended someday. I mean, again, I don't know whether that's going to be part of this project, depending on the outcome of the Board of Adjustment, whether the city extends it sometime in the future, you know, I don't know. But it would seem like that would be a natural extension. I don't know. It wouldn't be too hard to transition a couple of feet back. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Have the sidewalk run this side down, no sidewalk here. I mean, they could still do we don't have a reason to grant a variance for here, so they would still have 2 on Karma. But it would seem like, given the site constraints of the right-of-way, that to me makes more sense than, I mean, I'm not opposed to the pedestrian access easement, Cindy, you know, we've seen that, and I certainly acknowledge the site constraint of the 33-foot right-of-way, but given the special use permit issues with the restaurant, I don't know, would you and your client be agreeable to that idea?
I guess I'm hearing you talk about the front and the back. As far as the front, would it not, I mean, rather than move the road, which would affect the adjacent properties, we've got 6.5 feet. So a 5-foot sidewalk, it would just reduce the 5.5-foot the 5-foot median to a 1.5-foot median.
That's not
But
enough
on a
plaza.
25
Why can't you shift the road? You got 6.5 feet on the other side too. Shift the road 3.5 feet over, you still got 3 feet to the property line, and that allows you a 5-foot plaza on the other side and a 5-foot sidewalk. I mean, am I missing dimensions here? Somebody who's does better math than me?
No, but it does certainly impact those 2 properties.
How?
It's
still in the right of way, though, right?
Their shoulder would only then be
3 feet.
3 feet, okay.
So
Yeah.
it's not on their property.
Right.
Right. I don't know. The only thing that gives me heartburn is we don't have a survey to know how close their structures are, or I mean, I don't know what the right-of-way looks like, if there's fences or
There isn't on that one house.
that side, there's
It's
not.
just
Okay,
an
so it would
open-
just be how close is the
Right.
house itself. Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, I can understand if the house is 2 feet off the edge of the right-of-way, you know, we want to keep some separation there, as to not make things too tight against the house. I mean, I don't think that we're going to be impacting the house, but you don't want to push things so tight up against it either. But I don't know, it just seems like it makes more sense. I don't like how this is setting the site up to not be able to be extended or modified.
It seems to me that from the city's perspective, we may want to consider a technical standard update for smaller right-of-ways, because we've seen this a few times already since I've been here. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I would let the plaza take the hit on this, to keep the road in the center line, and you have a smaller, green space, and you've got a sidewalk that connects, and everything is like normal.
From an engineering standpoint, I'm not comfortable with a narrow plaza and valley curb.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
We did something similar for a Friends School of Wilmington on Camellia. That was an existing city right-of-way. And obviously it didn't have the width necessary for a standard city cross-section. And we ended up shifting sidewalk on one side of the road. Yeah,
Type A curve.
Yeah,
We could put
and-
Type A curve for that section.
What's A? Is that slope or is that
No, that's
vertical?
thin.
type A or type H, whatever, that's the vertical.
Vertical. Thank you.
curving.
Sorry.
And I think we put the sidewalk, I can't remember exactly, but I think we may have put the sidewalk like right, just as you're suggesting, right on it. We did a super elevation on that roadway. So we sloped it all to one side, and I can't remember if we went back with the valley curbing or well, there we go.
Is that Camellia?
That's
what you
it
did?
now. That's exactly what we designed and what we, what they built. So, they did allow the valley curbing with the sidewalk. Again, it wasn't a standard, wasn't a, and some allowances were made for deviation from the standard. At the end of the day, it worked out. We were able, the toughest issue or the design constraint is really matching existing grades, because you're so limited with your available right-of-way. You don't have room to tie into grades if you end up in a cut condition sloping up. You don't have that horizontal space to do it, vice versa. Or if you're higher than existing ground, you can't slope down. So that's really the only potential issues associated with doing any sort of roadway in a constrained right-of-way.
But on that west side, certainly we could put vertical curve along that section of Molly Pitchers. And it'd still be the 1.5 foot of median.
I understand the need for vertical separation from sidewalk. That's mostly in a high-speed environment, and I don't think you're going to get that on Plant Corridor or
That's
certainly
not
on
the
right-
concern.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a concern of reducing that separation. That's not what I'm concerned about here. What I'm concerned about here is when you have that plaza, you have no street trees, you have a tendency for cars to throw two wheels up on the sidewalk and in the plaza area, and it becomes an easy place to park, and that's not the intention. If you've got the plaza and you've got street trees, then you don't have that much tendency to do that. That's my concern. And you can't do anything with a 1.5 foot plaza anyway.
Yeah, it becomes a maintenance nightmare, really.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, vertical curbing is an option, to maintain that vertical separation between the sidewalk. That would control the cars. That would limit any parking on the sidewalk. People aren't in regular, POV vehicles aren't inclined to pop over the curb just to park on a vertical curb scenario. So that's certainly an option.
I'm not really sure how that would apply to the east side adjacent to the existing homes. I don't want to. When you have vertical curb, you create.
Wouldn't put it on that side.
Okay, so
Only
you're
the
just
one
talking
side.
about that side,
Where
okay.
you want the sidewalk. We could have vertical curb, then there would be 6 foot sidewalk, because that's the technical standard against vertical curb, correct?
And then tie to grade. And then you'd have a couple of
Basically
feet.
a half foot before the fence.
I mean, is there some consideration, and this might be a Board of Adjustment thing, but to just having sidewalk on one side of the road for this the whole way?
That's what this is.
That's okay.
We can.
Well, you show it right there, but.
My
Yeah.
But we don't want to get into that right now.
question, I guess, for staff then is as this is evolving, this variance is evolving from it's a non-standard section. Either way you look at it, it's a non-standard section. They've gone from, potentially installing sidewalk on both sides for a very, very small section of Plant Court, and then to potentially maybe only doing one side and shifting the road a little bit, or maybe not shifting the road. I don't know. How do we? Are we allowed to entertain alternate motions here for that, or is there any concerns from staff on that?
By alternate motions, what are you?
Well, if we're talking about putting sidewalk on one side, that's the big one. We're going
think
from two
the-
sides to
The
one.
waiver is from the standard cross-section, so any adjustment to that cross-section, given the constraints of the existing right-of-way, would be something you could consider.
Okay. Dad, Dennis, Chris, anything? So what do you guys think?
I think adding it to the west side, I mean, it does provide the connectivity that I think you're looking for. And it seems like it's doable with the vertical curb and the sidewalk behind that without impacting the property owners on the east side.
Rob, it's just, while you're on that same subject, and Brian, is this the forum for also asking, and you mentioned deviation from standard cross-section, but if we were to decide we wanted to attempt to seek super elevating that road, just as we did on Camellia, would that be part of this, or is that?
That's a by right option. That's something you work out at TRC, doesn't require
Okay.
variance. So I think that when you're going into designing this, and I know you said that they haven't fully designed it yet, when you're going in to design it, if it works better to super elevate it one way or the other, TRC can approve that.
Okay.
Without any DAC. That's the way I understand it. That is an option that is presented in tech standards now.
Folks, I apologize. I know a couple of you have questions, have your hands up, but this is a quasi-judicial hearing and the public comment has been closed. I'm sure staff would be happy if you want to email or call in with questions, but we can't open that back up today, so I apologize about that.
So I think I would support the sidewalk going on the west side, connecting down to Wrightsville Beach. I don't know if Wrightsville Road.
That was even better.
Yeah, even better, right? Whether they have to offset the road to do that, I'm not sure, but I think it's fine. It's minimal impact to the existing properties on the east side. It allows that connection to the primary corridor. I think that's the way to go.
I agree. I mean, I'm conscious of the proximity to the existing structures. I don't want to impact them. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that sidewalk on the west side seems to make the most sense. I think that the underlying issue is, while normally a pedestrian easement for sidewalk is fine, when the city doesn't have the ability to extend that sidewalk through properties that are not controlled by the development, that's a concern for me. So I think if we can eliminate sidewalk on the east side, which was even voiced as a suggestion by one of the residents, if we could eliminate the sidewalk on the east side and either shift the road over or do vertical curb and have that sidewalk just abut the back of curb, I'm agreeable to either of those options to be potentially worked out by the TRC in design. Question is, how do we formulate that into a motion?
I think staff would request as much guidance as we can give TRC as possible. We would appreciate that.
So how about a motion to approve the variance based on conditions of sidewalk being run on the west side of the street down to Wrightsville Ave with the curb detailing as discussed and curb and sidewalk detailing as discussed.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give the TRC the flexibility to allow, a minor shift in the roadway itself, a few feet to the east, to allow either a plaza and sidewalk on the west side, or whether we hold the road itself and switch, transition to vertical curb and do 6-foot sidewalk along the back of curb. I think either of those scenarios are fine for me. I respect what Howard said. I mean, you do have to tie to existing grades. We don't want to impact any of those property owners. We don't want to. My brain is not telling me that it's pretty flat through there, but still, I want to give some flexibility to be able to tie to grades, existing grades on either side as you enter off of Wrightsville Avenue. So having a foot or so of right-of-way to do that is good. So that's the motion. Sidewalk on one side.
I want to need a little bit more than as discussed.
Sure. Sidewalk on the one side, on the west side of the road, Plant Court. And, I mean, that would be a conditional approval, right, of their request for a waiver for a non-standard road section due to site constraints of a 33-foot right-of-way and existing structures on either side.
And Rob, would that just be for the first section up to lot 1, or would it be sidewalk on one side only all the way up to lot 5?
I don't see the point of having sidewalk on the east side through beyond lot 1. You know what I mean? Like through the Karma Court lots and the open space there. I mean, you've got sidewalk on both sides of Karma Court. They're going to have to get that sidewalk over to the west side somehow.
But then not have the sidewalk adjacent to lot 10?
I don't believe it's necessary.
Doesn't go anywhere.
Right. It doesn't go anywhere, and it's not going to go anywhere, and they don't have the right-of-way for it to go anywhere. That's my motion, is to approve with the condition that they install sidewalk on the west side.
And as the curb, sidewalk width, anything on type of curb, sidewalk width, plaza width.
If they can't maintain a 5-foot plaza width, vertical curb is necessary in my mind.
Vertical curb, 6-foot sidewalk.
Right.
Got it.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Guess when you speak in it, you gotta.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you were trying everything. You know, what I'm wondering, I couldn't get into, was if they're not going to extend the road, is the BOA going to extend the sidewalk to connect up to Cedar? That would be cool. Do you know what I mean? That would be a really cool idea, but I don't think we can make that call. You know, that's where I was like, where's our line in the BOA? So I think that's the BOA.
It works fine.
But
because it's wireless, it takes a minute.
It delays, it's gotta catch up to the receiver.
It works now.
Blue on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I would just put it in there and don't turn it off.
I'm telling you.
Just turn
I turned it on.
I actually kept pressing the buttons. Try and change the channel. Because this is on channel 8.
Channel.
I didn't know there were channels. Sidewalk on the west side. Plaza can't be reached. Approved with sidewalk on the west side. 5-foot plaza can't be maintained, vertical curb, sidewalk adjacent.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I was just confused why there wasn't a sidewalk
here.
Right.
And there's the open space with the wetland.
Yeah.
Like, well, if it's here, it doesn't need to be
Well,
here.
I don't know. I get to understand that.
That's here writing. Doesn't add anything. It's not here.
Man, they alluded to that. I feel like I heard some alluded, so they alluded to that about where I read it.
we ready for the second item?
I think so.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Up there, wildlife notes. Anybody's interested in the wildlife that's present? It's a good read.
I need to be in the record, Brian.
I pray to God not. This site includes approximately 40.45 acres. It's currently zoned LI. Currently developed as a dry stack boat storage facility. Marina is currently not in use. The applicant is proposing to rezone this site from LI. Well, actually, it was rezoned. I'm sorry, this report was written before last night's second reading. So it was rezoned last evening on second reading to an MD17 conditional district for a 248 unit apartment complex. The project does include 2 access points on River Road, one at the intersection of River Road and Independence, the other at River Road north of Coleman Drive. A TIA was approved, includes improvements to the intersection. I think there's additional conditions that were approved by council for an improvement that will be negotiated with River Lights over time, and it's kind of a separate track as this project moves forward through development. The site does have access to water and sewer mains along River Road, and a stormwater management permit will be required. I will state that they are reducing the amount of impervious coverage on this site based on the redevelopment that's being proposed. For today's meeting, the technical standards require a public street or streets to serve as, to serve multifamily development that contains 50 or more units or has any principal structure more than 500 feet away from an existing public street. And the technical standards also stipulate that a private driveway must not exceed 500 feet in length. So today they're requesting relief from providing a new public street to serve development and relief from the maximum length of a private driveway. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is present as well.
Is there any questions for Brian? I have a procedural question. I've asked this on other projects. We have 2 variances. Are we considering a preliminary plan approval of this as well, or just the 2 variances?
I believe there is a preliminary plan as well.
Thank you.
No, I stand corrected. There is not a preliminary plan. I'm sorry.
So just the 2 variances?
Just the 2 waivers.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
The applicant wish to speak?
I'm Brian Eckel with Kicker Development, authorized agent of the current owner. We have this under contract to develop this. If we get through this, we will move into our engineering with Brian Hinton, and we're here to answer any questions.
So right off the bat, I just have to, we have 6 delineated standards for approval that we have to go by. And so I guess in my mind, there has not been a public street provided in the development, and I guess my question would be why?
Well, we have gone through the same process, I feel like about a dozen times now when these infill sites, this is a fully developed site as it is, and there was no public street, and due to the current wetlands, there's not enough room to put a public street through here.
I'm not following that. So, I mean, I've been out to the site, so I understand.
So all we're doing on the site is asking for a variance, really, I guess, for the 500, 800 foot rule, because due to the geography of the site. And then we'll be making improvements to the road that goes up to access number 2.
Is that a road? I mean, you have the ability to dedicate that as a road?
We do.
You do? Wouldn't that make the variance go away if they dedicated that as a road?
It would, if they did, I believe, yeah. As long as, if they approved the road to where the units, the buildings were within 500 feet of the end of it, yeah. For that one variance.
I'm assuming it's some sort of an easement, since all those other properties use it for access now.
So it's a piece of private property that we own.
Right.
That provides an easement to those lots adjoining to us. And I think we've already committed in our conditions at zoning that was approved last night that we are improving that.
Right, there is conditions that would be approved for access. I don't know that it really delineates what that improvement entails as far as a cross-section. I don't know if I ever saw a cross-section for it.
See, if they could improve that access down to basically where it opens up, they put in a little offset cul-de-sac there, right as you come in from the north, Plan North, maybe it's not actual north, from Plan North. You see what I'm saying?
No cul-de-sacs, but in my mind, access 2 goes down to their roundabout. It could be a public street, in addition connecting back to access 1. I mean, it's essentially going to be the terminus to Independence, and as we just heard, there's some negotiations going on about, traffic light improvements, due to the developments that are coming up in this area. So I'm still not seeing why. Basically, if you use that roundabout as kind of like the kind of knuckle for access 2 and access 1, why a public street can't be provided there?
It's got parking off, perpendicular parking, which wouldn't meet any kind of standards.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the applicant could correct me, isn't there a bridge that kind of crosses the wetlands there at Checkpoint? So you really can't really get a road to access 1 now. Going north, I don't know the width of that kind of flagpole. That might be something to discuss, but I've been out there and I don't think you can get a road across that bridge without some significant improvement to disrupt the wetlands to do it.
Yeah, that area is constrained by wetlands. That's the reason for not trying to push a road through there.
How wide's the bridge?
The bridge is, the travel lane, I guess, to the east and west of the bridge is about 30 feet. The bridge shrinks down to approximately 18 feet.
Is there any pedestrian access to cross to connect the project to Independence? Across that bridge?
You mean, can our residents walk across the bridge?
Is there like a sidewalk to separate the vehicles?
No, sir.
All right.
He's looking at something.
Okay.
We'll put it up in just a second.
Okay.
Do we know, sorry, this thing doesn't work again.
It does.
Do we know how big that access easement, how wide that access easement is up to access point 2?
We should. The right one north.
Oh, yes, the travel width of that is 24 feet, approximately.
Is that the extent of the easement width?
It's private property, so it's not an easement, but I guess.
How wide is the property through there? I guess what he's asking.
Yeah, you have that.
I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but I can certainly look at it.
I think it's been answered, but I was just going to clarify that long flagpole, as Brian described, that's part of their property. That's just how the meets and bounds are. It's just a narrow, and what they were saying is that the other abutting properties have an easement across it, but it's actually property that they own.
Is there any document that describes how wide that piece of property is?
Look on a map, pull it up on satellite, and
all I'm getting at is, would it support a standard cross-section of a public roadway?
If they're going to look into that, I'll ask a question. Captain Elrod, do you have any concerns about fire access for this site?
Well, what's the GVW listing for that bridge? Gross vehicle weight will it support?
The bridge, my understanding was designed to support fairly large-scale boats and to be able to tow them. I don't have the actual vehicle weight
So
that
it's
is
not,
rated for.
so it's not going to support a 50,000-pound fire truck?
I cannot say that it will or will not, but I would say.
We've never driven over it because it will not support the weight of fire equipment, ever since it was built. The only access we have is off River Road next to where Coleman Drive is. That's the only way we can get into the property. That bridge will not support going to the fire truck.
So it sounds like there needs to be some infrastructure amendments closer to Independence. I mean, I get it, there's some wetlands over there, it gets a little costly, but that's the price that's paid for developing a property right there. I mean, you know, with all developments and kind of mixed-use things coming online, Independence, connecting to that, I think, is really the strongest move. I mean, both are required, I think. I don't know if just one would be sufficient, but given the two access points, it seems like having those both be public streets would be ideal. Not even ideal, it would be what's required. Because I'm going through our 6 standards for approval, and I'm just not seeing a way that we even have an ability to approve this.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a big hardship either to provide, especially for the road to the north. I mean, I know that it's going to be, you know, improved, paved, and that was a condition of the rezoning, but I don't see any reason why that couldn't be made as a road, a dedicated road, and that would eliminate the need for at least one of the variances. I don't know about the connection back to Independence. I mean, I think what you're saying makes sense. I mean, I have some concerns about that. We don't know about that bridge. If that's the only means of access from that direction, I don't know.
For your benefit, we were able to pull up City View. It looks like it's approximately 60 feet wide. Of course, this is, we know the accuracy that GIS gives us, but this is an approximate.
I know a lot of our right-of-ways are 66 feet, so I don't know what that standard width.
Oh, that would be plenty to accommodate
this year.
Yeah, I think 60 is the largest right-of-way that is standard, so it would accommodate that. But it's sort of, just from my own thought, it sort of opens up another can of worms. It's like, okay, if it's a road, it's got to have sidewalk, both sides, right? I mean, that's a road section.
That would be the standard cross-section, yes.
Right.
That respectfully would make a lot of sense in that area. Directly to the north, the only uses are the port.
But it would make sense to the east to connect residents with, you know, I mean, Independence is going to get widened. There's going to be improvements made to that. I mean, I think that I can see your point to the north. It's like, why are we putting public infrastructure in that's leading into a more industrial area? I can see that point. But there's not a connection, pedestrian connection to connect, you know, the 400 units or 248 units to the, you know, to the east. So it seems like we should need a road to one or the other.
I mean, Independence would, I think, to even further to that point, that makes the most sense. That's where the stuff is. That's where the stuff people are going to be coming and going from, not the port, you know, up and down Independence.
Well, we've got to open the public hearing. We'll see anybody here, but I've got to go through the formality of that. So I will open the public hearing on this matter. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to speak? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, which leads us to, I guess, finalize the discussion on this, and then, you know, we got 2 variances to consider. They're very similar. I'm not going to group them. The first one is access provided by new public streets and then the maximum length of a private drive. What's everybody's thoughts?
Standards for approval. This is a self-imposed variance request, not something from, site constraints or, anything like this. This is the design. Even in the applicant's justification, it says the site design does this. Well,
So we don't consider wetlands a site constraint?
we do, but you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, people cross wetlands all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not, and
We have an existing crossing, I guess, or existing wetland. We're trying to.
But it doesn't meet any of the standards needed for safety and pedestrian access. That's the biggest problem. And, just traditional vehicle access with.
yeah.
I mean, basically.
I wonder how it got approved the first time.
I couldn't tell you. We can talk about what's here now.
Are we saying because the bridge doesn't accommodate pedestrians? Is that what I just want to be clear what we're.
I mean, that was one of the things I mentioned. I think there's been some concerns about that access point. It's not being improved. It doesn't have any pedestrian connectivity. It doesn't support the weight. It doesn't potentially support the weight of a fire truck. So those were all concerns we had. I don't think we voted on anything yet.
Well, no, I'm just for clarity in my own mind.
So Sean, I've got a question for you. What are our options as far as, can we ask for any continuance?
That's certainly an option to ask for continuance. We could maybe continue the discussion for a couple more minutes, see where it goes, but that may be a viable option. We could certainly continue it a month and come back with some additional information.
I mean, I know personally, I see that, like, the circulation within the site, I don't really have a problem with it. It's the access to the site. The fact that there's no real hardship preventing dedication of a road to the north. I understand the wetlands, but again, we see wetland crossings on most projects nowadays, so I don't see the reason why that couldn't be improved some to provide better vehicular access or potentially even a road. Those are my concerns. Again, I'm not really. I can recognize a site constraint. The back far corners may be in excess of 500 feet from, and I don't really have any concerns about that.
So we definitely would like the opportunity to study what we're calling this a road easement going up to access to in our time, if you'll give us a continuance on that. In regards to the wetlands, we always try to stay out of wetlands and when we can, and we think we have a viable option. We'd like to study the rating of that bridge, and we'd be ready to come back with more information on that next month.
Okay. How do we handle that?
Just for clarification, and I appreciate the scope there, but just for the record and to be as efficient as we can next time we gather, I was just wondering if the committee could provide any additional scope. I think you addressed your concerns. I just wanted to see if there's anything else that, while these folks are taking a look at it, if they needed to look at anything else as well, if that makes sense. It's not a great way of phrasing it, but.
I think we generally like to see 2 access points or more to larger developments, right? That's generally just a good rule of thumb. And so if there is a public road provided on access 2, and let's say it comes down, all the way to where that roundabout is, that may help the second variance request of the 500-foot driveway. I'm not sure what the dimensions are there, but we'd at least get closer to it. So that would solve one of the variances. Well, that would solve half of one and the second one. We still have the issue of access to Independence. So, I mean, just simply put, that's the best spot for people to go. And that's where all the stuff is, right? That's where people are gonna maybe go, walking to the store or to the movie theater or on their bike or whatever's happening. You're right, they probably won't go up to Access 2. They will certainly go to Access 1. So I think that would be my recommendation when you're looking at it, to see what you can do there, just to be compliant with the street standards and the access.
Okay, so the guidance I'm hearing is it's Access 1 is greater than Access 2 as far as access and then multimodal connections to not only River Road, but any kind of services and whatnot they need to get to.
Yeah, I mean, some of the other developments that are in the area, I believe, are public records. So you could pull those plans, kind of back this out and look at the bigger picture at what else is happening around and find the best way to tie into that. There's a lot going on around this area.
Yeah, we're actually developing a couple sites in the area, finishing a project that I think we went through this exact same process and got a variance on 500, 800 foot. It's called Riverwood. It's about 800 yards from the site.
Okay.
Mr. Eccles, I understood your request would be to continue this 1 month to the November meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Would the board entertain that request?
Yep. So how do we make a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. At the applicant's request, I would make the motion to continue this item for 1 month.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Anything else? I guess the meeting is adjourned, right? No, I was just gonna try.
Oh,
sorry.
Make sure it's off now, if it works for you.
Now the meeting's over.
It'll work this fine.
What if they wanted to ask for sidewalk on each side? So if that's not, so you open up like